Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife Kara is not joining us today, but today we are checking out the Civivi Rustic Gent. Let's get to it. Alright, this knife is 6 3/4 inch total length with just under 3 inch blade. So it's about 2 7/8 inch long, so that will help out in a lot of areas where you need under 3 inch blade. Here it is against the Civivi Chronic, and here it is up against the Civivi Hooligan. A couple little bit smaller knives, and then here it is against the Brigand, just a little bit bigger of a knife, and I'll slip the McKenna in underneath it. These are all Civivis, so there you go. All right, so now let's get into the good and bad of this knife. So now, I do like this knife. I think it is very well made. It is very nice all the way around. Everything lines up really nicely. They use T8s all the way around, which I do really like. And I did figure out I can do it one-handed pretty easily. You just have to be cognitive of when you unlock it, keeping tension on the lock bar and knowing when to release it. So you have a half stop right there. So a half stop is when you're opening it. There's a little bit of tension right there, as you can see. But when you're opening it, it's going to stop right there. There's a little notch cut out right there to where it stops. And then the next part is open. When you unclose it, same thing. Stops, then closes. So there's tension right there. Bang. Bang. You can see it. Okay, so now when you're unlocking it, it's going to hit that half stop if you release this lock bar. If you don't release the lock bar, it's going to close on your fingers. But if it does happen to go past, let go of the lock bar and it'll either lock in that place or it'll just stop. So, and it's a light blade, so, but it is really sharp, so you do want to be careful. Even if you do just get it right out of the locking part, like right there, if you just barely unlock it, that's still enough to close it one-handed. So it's pretty easy to do like that if you want. I've learned to manipulate it pretty well. Okay, now I did carry this just very, very little. I carried it to work one day. I hardly used it, but I did use it that little tiny bit just to feel how it feels. I did not sharpen it. The owner of this knife has barely got to use it, and I don't want to take that away from him. But the blade is nice and thin, crowned very nicely. This is a Damascus steel and micarta and carbon fiber. This does come in a few different variations. There's like 2 sets of carbon fiber with regular steel, which is a D2 steel. Now this Damascus, I believe, is made from a 9CR 18 MOV or 13 MOV. It is a Sandvik steel that is a stainless. I think they should have used that on the regular one instead of D2, but it is, you know, whatever. It's this version right here with the Damascus is just under $100, like $95, $97. And then the regular version with the regular steel with the D2 is around $75. Okay, so, but this blade is really nice, and it is made for performing. It is definitely a performing blade that would get very sharp. Like I said, I did not sharpen it. I'll get to that in just one second. This blade shape is really good because you have the flat for push cuts, you have the belly for slicing, and then you have the tip that doesn't go up too high. And this is considered a clip point blade shape, but the tip is really easy to get to. You can use the tip very nicely without having to lift your arm up too high. Some clip points do go up pretty high. This one is about perfect. I do like them to be dropped down just a little bit more. I'd rather the tip right there, but this is still good and it works really well. And being such a thin blade stock and having such a deep, tall, hollow ground blade, it is ground very thin, and the hollow ground blade is relatively high. So you will get a lifetime of sharpenings out of this before it gets any thicker. And since it's so thin, man, this thing passes through materials very easily. I did really look at the grinds. Since I didn't get to sharpen it, I wanted to pay attention to how it would sharpen if I did, and it looks very well done. I have seen a couple Civivis, and this is very rare, but I've seen a couple of them that have, like, you know, some grinds that that might be a little different from one side to the other, but for the most part, and don't slam me for saying that, because 98% of them, if not 99% of them, are very symmetrical from one side to the other. I do recommend that sharpening a Civivi is a lot easier than most knives because they're usually very thin, so it's a lot easier and a lot faster to sharpen than a lot of knives that are thicker. And since they are usually hollow ground blades, or at least nice and thin, it's usually pretty even on one side to the other. So the micarta is a little different than some of the other micarta I've seen from Civivi. Now, I did hear some people complaining that theirs were a little more polished than they like their micarta. Micarta is made from different types of materials depending on the micarta. So there's multiple different kinds of micarta, but it's usually made from certain types of cloth, like linen or denim, you know, so on and so forth. So a lot of people like to feel the soft feeling. Micarta usually has, and not even usually, micarta tends to have a softer feeling to it that breaks in over time. The more you use it, the more you handle it, it absorbs your oils from your hand, and you know, starts changing color and gets softer and softer. Now this one has the polish down the middle, right? And then the sides is softer, like you can actually feel the fabric. And this thing has not been used a lot, so this is how it came from the factory. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but if you look when I turn it, you can see like the color difference down the middle versus the edges. The edges, you can feel the fabrics. Then the middle, it's slick. So I do think that this is going to break in a way that a lot of people like micarta to break in, versus the Hooligan, which is still, even after I put sandpaper to it, because it was so slick, I put sandpaper to it, it's still slick. It still doesn't have that luxurious feeling that I like from micarta. I do love the Hooligan, but I do wish the micarta would break in faster and easier than it is. Now, this one does seem like it's going to do that. It's weird that I did hear from other people, though, that theirs wasn't like that. So, I don't know. This particular one is the only one I've checked out, so I gotta, you know, rate it how this one is. And as far as I can tell, this stuff's gonna break in real nice. I mean, like I said, I can feel the micarta right here on the edges. This side is a little slicker, but I can still kind of feel it on the edges. And like I said, you can get it in different versions, so this is just the one that the owner ordered in this way. It does have a lanyard for the back for when you, because it comes with this little leather pouch, where you can put it like this, and then you can have the lanyard there, and you can pull it out of your pocket. Now, if you don't like lanyards, even on something like this, then when this is clipped into your pocket, so this would clip into the inside of your pocket, then you would drop this in there. When you want to take it out, squeeze it. So as it's in your pocket, it'll be in your pocket like this. This would be the outside of your pocket, then the leather would be on the inside. Just squeeze it, then pull. It makes it to where it opens up a little bit easier and gives you room to grab it with your fingers. Now, I did notice when it's flipped around this way, the opposite way, it sits directly in the middle, which I do like a little bit more. So I do recommend, if you're not going to carry a lanyard, you don't want a lanyard on it, flip it this way. Flip it the other way where the Civivi is right there. It looks kind of cool too, and it makes it so much easier to grab than when it's flipped this way. This way it tends to lean to one side or the other, depending if it's like this or like this. You see how it goes to the side. But if you have a lanyard on it, then you can just tug the lanyard out. Now, this might want to just pull right out of your pocket if it's in there nice and snugly, but over time this pouch will break in, and you can just give it a little squeeze, like I said, and then pull the lanyard. So this little pouch, I do think it's cool. I do like it. I think it's awesome that they threw this in. But I think it could have been stitched a little bit better. I think it would have been nicer if it had double stitching around the edge instead of a single stitch. It just would have showed a little bit better quality and would hold up better over time, especially for something that's constantly being opened and closed. But still very cool, very awesome. Okay, so the lock back, it's nice and rounded. It's nice and easy to push. So when you are unlocking it, it doesn't give you a ton of tension. And just like when you're pulling this out, pulling the blade out, there's not a ton of tension. It's actually relatively easy, which I do like because that lets me open it up one-handed. There's a lot of things to like about this knife, but there are a few bads. So let me go over the bads very quickly. Okay, one bad thing, I think they should have put a little, and this isn't really a bad, it's more of a recommendation. I think it would have been better if it had a little divot right there, just a little tiny dent right there. It would have been more comfortable for your thumb when you push it. It would have been just a little more comfortable. Another thing is the price. I think the price is a little high. I think for $97, I don't know. I think it's just a little high. I think they could have did this one for $75 and did the other version for $50. I mean, I think that a lockback doesn't take as much work as a liner lock or a frame lock. And I just feel like it could have been done, and it should have, especially from Civivi, which usually offers a lot for the money. I do really like the knife, and I'm not saying that it's crazy if you buy this one for that amount of money. I just think they could have done it for cheaper. Also, a clip. Since this is supposed to be like a modern, traditional, then if it's going to be a modern traditional, I think a clip would have been better than this. But I guess, you know, if you want to go really traditional with just the old, or with new materials, then I guess it makes sense. I would have preferred it with a small little deep carry clip. I think that would have been a little bit better. Also, the half stop. I think it's weird that there's a half stop on this. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy being able to use it like this because I can use it one-handed. But usually half stops are for slip joints. This is a lockback. So I think that's a little weird that it does have that. Now, this little half stop does help me for when I close it and I want to do it one-handed, but it's you know, it is what it is. You know, normally that's on a slip joint, not on a lockback. But other bad things, there's not a lot of bad, and there's a lot of good here. Even the lanyard is nice and hidden. All T8s, the material's really nice, and it looks sexy as hell. The blade shape is very useful. The ergos are really nice because since it doesn't have a clip, there's nothing really grabbing your hand, or you know, not pinching, but you know, the little spot in your hand where the lanyard would be isn't there. And it is very versatile, and I think that this is one of the best gift knives you can gift a grandpa or a father or something like that. This is a really cool knife, and I feel like this thing can be it's an amazing knife. It is a really good knife. Civivi did do a good job with this. My little nitpicks are neither here nor there. It doesn't make this knife any worse than it is. But I also do think that this thing could have been made a little bit better quality. It does feel very cheaply made, but it still works. It does perform, and they did add it in. So there's my video, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.